France, and I might add the guy who opened up Apple Europe. And Keita Leni, member of the board for Syntec Numérique, Santique Numérique, and co-founder and CEO of Quali. Please join me in welcoming this great panel. Thank you. Welcome all. Fabulous. So, private and public partnerships, how to foster innovation. This is what we will be talking about today. Guillaume, I'd like to start with you. What does innovation mean for a global insurer like AXA?
Thank you very much, Gary, and good morning to all. For a global insurer like AXA, innovation means first and foremost, how do we transform our business model, and how are we able to leverage the great power of technology in order to be much closer to our customers. All of us in this room, we have the pleasure of being the customers of any insurance company for usually many products, and we all know that the biggest pain point with an insurer is that it's complicated to interact with us, and in many occasions we even have no interaction. You probably know that one customer out of 5 only has an interaction in a given year with his or her insurer. Why so? Because usually you call your insurer when something bad has happened and you need the insurer for the claim. So what we are trying to do is to change this business model in order to transform it and go beyond just the payment of claims, but also the provision of services. That's particularly true for health insurance, where we believe that we can go much beyond just the coverage of health claims, just paying for health invoices, but coming to the customers with services. For example, telemedicine services that we developed in Europe. 10 million customers of our solutions today in Europe, mostly in France, in order to have access to a doctor at hand, on your mobile directly. So this whole transformation of our business model from payer to partner is the core of our innovation efforts, and this is where we need to work on a daily basis with public authorities. To give you an example, today we are launching a new partnership in the north of France, Région Hauts-de-France, where we will partner together to provide teleconsultation services in areas where you no longer have any doctor. That's a concrete thing where we can work between the public sector and the private players in order to deliver much more value for the end user.
Are you saying today?
Yes, today.
This day is the very first day?
Exactly.
This is the first public announcement?
This is the second, because the president of this region and our CEO have announced it exactly half an hour ago.
Okay, well, we're hearing it here second. So thank you.
Thank you.
Katya, we have something in common.
Yes.
Both the Consumer Technology Association and Syntec Numérique represent the technology industry. Tell us about your mission and what you do.
Thank you, Gary. Hello, everybody. So Syntec Numérique is the French professional organization for the digital industry. We have 2,000 members, IT companies, digital editors, and our mission is to serve as an advocate for digital professionals and to influencing government agencies and institutions, both for introduce and for digital transformation into all areas of businesses, government and private. Our second mission is to help our members to introduce innovation in their way of changing things for their clients, which is the companies of all areas of businesses and all types of companies, startups or big companies. Our missions are public and private in this matter.
Thank you. Constance, could you tell me about what your organization does and what you view is most important for encouraging French innovation?
Yes, thank you, Gary, for this question. Hello to everybody. First, I I would say some words about the new National Assembly, because we just, all of the members get elected 1 year, a little bit more than 1 year ago. I'm also a new member of the French National Assembly, even though I'm not that young anymore, and I spent some years before in the European Parliament. But there was a deep concern in the current National Assembly about innovation, transformation of our economy, of our society, of the world, and many study groups have been founded on different issues regarding the digital world and the digital transformation of our societies, on artificial intelligence, of course, on data protection, on different issues. We have now a lot of MPs who are, for some of them, coming from civil society and from the business companies involved in digital markets and digital economy, and for others just citizens that want to try to understand what are the issues, what are the possibilities, but also the threats of the new world and the digital transformation of the world. Of course, we all know that innovation means transformation and means opportunities to transform the life and the condition of our citizens and to bring growth and happiness to our citizens. But it doesn't mean that we don't have to look very deeply and consciously and in a very precise way to also the threats and the challenges that we have to face all together. That's what we did with one of my colleagues, also a member of the French Parliament, Eric Botorel, when we wrote that report on the transformation of the digital single market in Europe and the challenges that we'll have to face all together, and also the changes that we have to bring into the, not only European legislation, of course, but also French legislations, because you talked previously, and it will be probably in other discussions later on during the day, about the very important piece of legislation, European legislation called GDPR. We had a law passed recently in the French Parliament in order to implement GDPR in the French legislations that occurred in a very interesting way, with a lot of debates about the core values that we all share in Europe and that are part of the European identity. At least that's what I think, which is privacy, data protection, personal data protections, and all these issues are very present in our political debates and in the public debates that we have in the national Parliament. But also we try to build a new social, economic, tax environment in order to support and to foster innovation. There have been some interesting changes in the tax legislations and in different political groups. I'm not a member of the political group who is supposed to support President Macron and his government, but we supported the transformation of the tax legislation, the tax flat tax, for instance, or the decrease of other taxes that were burdens on the French companies. We are also, and I was very glad to listen to Valérie Pécresse a few minutes ago, because she played a very decisive role in the transformation of a very important tool, French tool, and we're proud of that tool that she transformed and developed under Nicolas Sarkozy's mandate, and it was the research tax credit that in 2008 was totally transformed and increased and developed as a massive tool in order to foster innovation in France, and that was what Valérie Pécresse did. We have other tools, mostly tax tools in order to support innovation. We're trying to, it is one of the challenges I think we have to face, that maybe the French environment is too diverse and that we have progress to make in order to simplify our very diverse and huge legislation, even tax legislation. That's how we try to be constructive and to contribute to build a better environment for our companies, and especially for startups.
miss you. First, it's so good to see you again.
It's a pleasure, Gary, to see you in Paris, and I just want to kiss Susan to salute you because it's a pleasure. Every time you come in Paris, you come with your wife, and it's
Because you charm her. So, speaking of partnerships, let's talk about a public-private partnership. What's going on in Angers that you can talk about that's a public-private partnership?
in my conviction, the politicians are not the best for business. And when they create jobs, with the cash of taxes, but sometimes you have to create an environment or to create conditions to gather people to go in a direction. And in France, you just said it a few minutes ago, we are excellent to innovate, to design, to think about the future, but we have a French evil. We are very good to innovate, but very often unable to deploy or to enjoy the benefits from our innovations. We have to create a real international culture for French entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Because it's a little bit true that some French can be convinced France is the earth of the world. English is a useless language. We don't need viewers because we have the most beautiful country in the world. And so, all the public deciders, leaders, have to create the condition to open the eyes of a lot of people, a lot of citizens, to discover innovation. It's not it's impossible in only one country. You have to create bridges with other cultures, with other countries, with other companies, and the size of the market can't just be your own country. So, public leaders have a specific responsibility for this. And we have a second responsibility, I guess, to foster innovation between private and public partnership. In Angers, I guess it's a good example. 60 years ago, thousands of jobs in my city of Angers, between Nantes and Paris, were dedicated to the hard electronic. Bull, NEC, Packard Bell, Thomson, a lot of personal computers. With the mondialization, most of these jobs are today in Asia. But we still have thousands of people, but not in 3 or 4 companies, in hundreds of companies, very small business units with an high innovation ability. And we try to create the best ecosystem with the IoT, Internet of the Things, as bet, as wish, as horizon. And to do it, we use the French Tech flag. We use the CES in Vegas. We use the welcome of the World Electronic Forum. We use last week the IDEE showroom in Beijing. We use the abilities of Pascal Cagny and all the team of Business France. And after 3 years of public investment, we have just created a cooperative to give the flag to the entrepreneur, to the private sector. It was just 3 months ago, because we had to launch the process. But now, entrepreneurs and companies have to do it really with economic purposes.
Thank you, Mayor, and your unique ability to make every word sound important is something that I would like to learn from you. That's, it's truly, I've been to Angers many times and seen the technology and transformation there. Not only is it a beautiful city, but there's a city focused on technology. Pascal, you have had a diverse career in the private sector. In technology, and now you are giving your efforts to promoting France through Business France. Can you talk about that? And also specifically, we've heard some reference to reforms by the government helping the process. Can you identify and discuss those?
Thank you, Gary. It's a privilege to have you here. It actually is a testimony to a renaissance of France, right? Yes, by myself, the simple fact that an ugly businessman has been appointed in a public role tells you a lot about what the cultural change is here in France. And I learned a lot from my dear friends Christophe and what we did actually at the Angers and the Cité des Objets Connectés. Now, essentially, I think history will remember France a few years back as one of the few countries where the public-private partnership has been working. That's my bet. And essentially, it all goes through a kind of a virtual circle. What the government has done, right, Constance, and it has been this government and some of the previous one, is really trying to redirect as a number one priority talent and the money, right, towards innovations. And you do that in different matters. You do that essentially by the CER, the tax research credit that we've done. Many will have criticized that as another tax credits that the French are specialized of, but truth of the matter, we decided in France that 60% of all of our public policy money should go for that tax credits. And this, plus the GEE, which is the Joint Enterprise Innovation status, and I can name a few others. So by doing so, we give a very clear signal that now innovation, startups, creations of company was critical. In the meantime, we've been pushing the talent to go towards that. And that's what it means. It means that we're simplifying still today, and Constance, which is at the Assembly through the PACT law, right now is doing so, trying to simplify the way you basically patent your idea, your IP, which is critical. You need to know that France, in the overall ranking today, there is not one ranking where we're not making progress on that matters. So when you have a signal by which the public representatives are saying, we want to bring public money towards the effort of innovations, as well as ensuring that the talent goes where that's and we recognize this is the number one foundation act. That happened over a period of a year, and we're starting now to benefit of it. But the second key point, which I think is critical, and I learned obviously from the Anglo-Saxon word, is the role model, the ability to create icons. That is not part of our culture, right? If anything, we're always the one about looking at the king, or about the politicians and pointing the fingers saying they don't do enough. Here, gradually, learning from the Anglo-Saxon world, and sometimes there is good stuff to learn from it, right? There is something where we start to put the entrepreneurs at the icon of the modern time. What it means is that when you are a young guy, which was essentially at school and university at 20, 10, 15 years ago, I would be an engineer from the best school, I would go to France Telecom, to Orange. I will come from a good business school, I will go to actually L'Oréal. Today, that is not at all the case. Today, one of the issues of the Fortune 500 companies is the ability to attract the best talent, because they all want to become an entrepreneur. And that's because we really iconize the one which not only make money, but also give back to the company. And I've seen that firsthand in my 13 years at Apple in the Valley, where I saw entrepreneurs making tons of money very quickly, sometimes too quickly, going back to the community. So the second core role that you are seeing in France is this ability to create role model. The third, something also which is not very much into our DNA, is the sense of creating a community. And the French Tech that you talk about, Christophe, has been really this very smart idea. The French Tech is about having an entrepreneur talking to entrepreneur. The French Tech today is in 22 hubs through the world. Everyone wants to belong to it and wants to basically take a flag of the French Tech, exactly what you have done in Angers. And because you've got a sense of rallying something is good, and not what we do ourselves at Business France is also trying to create what we call the Team France. It's about having not anymore, when you are helping the company to export, having here a Chambre de Commerce et d'Industrie in the regions, a Chambre de Commerce into a city, Business France, the states fighting to each other to basically take the mindset of the entrepreneur which wants to export. We're trying to unite. And this concept is very important. I've seen firsthand how the Germans, the Italians have been doing this. So this concept of creating a community and a sense of a team has been critical. I reorient the time and the money, I create role models, I create a community. And the phase we're getting now is exactly what you're talking about. How this time around, we're not going to have created a Minitel, but damn it, we are not getting any of the benefit of the internet, right? The GAFAs are all created on the other side of the Atlantic. So our job now is to react. Learning from these past 20 years is to make sure that we are going to basically scale up. That's the magic word in English. So for doing this, we need to basically put more money, the best talent. We need to learn from the large company to help our young company which are on the growth stage. And we need to have a real transfer of savoir-faire. We actually need even the expertise of my VC partners in the US, the expertise of our VCs in Israel. I was here yesterday, thanks to Valérie, to Innovatech, right? To explain this is the ground and this is the place you need to come to basically take benefit of what is going to be the future. And let me have a word of optimism, right? France has gone through 2 or 3 rough decades. Me, especially in my role as an international manager, I've been living with what is called the French passion. I've seen also an amazing journey living in the UK about the ability for a country to attract talent, money, and recreate himself, right? France, the next decade, is a French one, no questions. And there is all the dots which are playing together to do so. There is a nationalist and protectionist world out there. There is a Brexit here on the door. And there is this amazing island, which is called France, which is now renovating, transforming itself, having a parliament which has been totally renewed at up to 75% of its members, a young generation which wants to become entrepreneurs, our ability to attract the talents all over the place. There's not anymore the French which are going the valley. The valley actually is coming here, creating R&D centers, piggybacking on our assets. And that's why I'm so sure, I'm so optimistic about what we're doing. That's why I'm telling you that in 5 years' time, you will look back, you will write, you will actually be teaching about these public-private partnerships and how we foster innovations. That's what's happening at the minute we're talking.
Wow. He's a great spokesman for French industry, isn't he? That's fantastic. So I'm going to try something a little bit American here, if you don't mind. Sorry. Je suis désolé. I would like to go down the panel and ask you a series of questions, and if you could each give a very brief answer. So it's either a yes/no question, and you could back it up with one sentence, or it will be focused on just your opinions with an explanation or a word. So in each of you may have different answers, and there's no wrong answers here. There's no passing or failing grades. We'll just go up and down the panel. What do you think is France's strongest asset for innovation?
Quality of the talents and the education system.
Talent and education. Mayor? Angers, of course.
City of Angers. France has a lot of talents, and in France, Angers is the most French of the French towns.
Pascal, you have to summarize here.
There was a national ranking last week, and we have been elected Best City of France last week in the Express review. So it's not a joke.
I fully abide by what my mayor is saying, right? I created 3,000 jobs 15 years ago at Pacabel, and I'm still out there. I think what he's doing is exceptional.
And you also have a home in Angers.
I've got home in the real France, right? Not Paris and not anything of this. To answer your question, I think is the cultural shift, right? The cultural change, the leadership which has been changing tone. You had here the head of a regions which said, I decided in 2015 to make my regions business friendly. The agenda of our president has been about business friendliness, which is not anymore an ugly word, right? So I think it's about setting the tone and really entrepreneurships, right? If you ask 6 years ago to the 18-25 years old kids what they wanted to do in the future, 10% of them will tell you entrepreneurs. You ask the same question today, 55%. That's a cultural shift.
Katja?
For me, it's the vitality of our ecosystem, from startups, SMEs, big companies, and public sector. Of course, if we can work together for the innovation, I think we're stronger, and that the ecosystem that brings this innovation and impacts the economy and the society.
Deputy Olga?
Yes, the best asset, our human resources, our talents.
People.
Yes, the people, the citizens. You know, we just got a Nobel Prize yesterday. Gérard Mourou, one of our famous scientists, we're very proud to have again an important prize for one of our best researchers. So we have also a very good, still very good high education system. So it's our best asset. Yeah.
So
People.
let me stick with that and stick with you, if I can. Come back to you and ask a different question. Let's talk about the educational system here. How is it great and how can it be improved? Going down the line, starting with you.
It can always be improved, of course, because it has currently to face new challenges, and one of the big challenges that our education system has to face is to integrate better, much better than it does now, all the generations, and especially all the youth that we have everywhere on our national territory. We have a lack of integration of young energy in our old educational system, and this is one of our biggest challenges. How can we integrate more the young people coming from everywhere in France? You know, we have some difficult areas where youth unemployment is very, very high because there is a lack of qualified jobs and skills, and so this is the challenge, because there is a lot of energy, there is a lot of talent everywhere on our territory, and how does our old and still performing system gonna face that challenge to integrate much more than it does actually.
Thank you. Katja, can we keep the answers a little brief?
For education, I think we have a higher education system, very efficient, that product very high-level engineers. We have now to give them the possibility to work in private sector as easily that in public sector. It does the Backed Law project, discussed actually in the French Parliament, that tries to connect to these careers, because this cooperation with public and private sector and the talent pool, we can be able to address the fragmentation to research activities and to increase the investment in research activities between private and public sector.
So let me ask it a different way, Katja. One of the concerns in the United States is the educational system does not meet the needs of the business community. There are not enough artificial intelligence engineers, data scientists. Is that a problem here, or is it things have to change, or is it perfect?
It's very difficult to bring new technology and very faster introduce them to the education system. We see that with the engineers. AI, it's here now, and we learn on the field, okay? And, as an entrepreneur, I have to educate my employees to these technologies. And there is no university or degree on AI. It's now introduced in some university fields, but it's very is the premise of that. So I think the private sector have to be a leader and to and to encourage these technologies to bring them to the education system, but not a higher education system, but from the little ones. I don't know. I think it's the technology have to enter much faster in our lives in the education system that is in our phones or in our consumer ways to live.
And is the system doing a good job of getting women engaged in science, math, engineering?
Yes. It's a little big problem in France because we have only 15% of all of girls in the end of the second degree. They employ or they are going to join of some master degrees in engineer. So 15% is not enough. That we are now trying in Syntec Numeric and with the government to make them to change the way the girls and the females look at these jobs. And the most important because the diversity and equity of genders is very important to shape the future of AI and humanity, because we can have only men create algorithms. We can have only white.
Right.
Sorry,
that's a big issue.
Very, very, very big issue. So this is a very big problem, and it's not. We have to personalize and make technology simple. It's very important that for everyone to us, it's very natural. The technology is natural, but for the public, it's not the same. It's very difficult to imagine that the technology can change our lives the way they change. I think our asset is also to change the state of mind of people and to the companies.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna just try to keep shorter answers so we have a lot of questions to ask. So go ahead if you want to jump in. But
can I do something very French and put some disorder in the round table?
Sure.
Thank you. Just to react on what we just discussed, because in my opinion this is the most critical point today when you speak about education and innovation and private-public. The biggest issue that we all have in big companies is an issue of access to high-quality training for the workforce. And today it's extremely difficult to do that. And this is an area where we really need to improve in France, including in terms of partnerships between large companies and large universities. We still have a number of things that we can improve there. A lot has been done in the past, including thanks to Madame Pécresse with the autonomy of the universities, but we can still improve a lot on this specific topic. And we have a tendency being a bit maybe complacent with ourselves, because yes, we are training probably some of the best engineers in the world. But even them, in 20 years, most of what they will have learned into the French public system, into the French universities, will be outdated. And if we don't start working right now on those issues, we will wake up in 10-15 years with very significant gaps in the quality of our workforce and in the quality of the knowledge into our large companies.
And then I appreciate that addition, and that is an answer that would be typical of an executive in the United States today. The number one issue is talent, and the disconnect is between the university system and what the companies need. You sound like you think it's good today, but may not be good in the future. I think the US answer would be different, is that it's not good enough today for what we need. You're training people in things that are irrelevant. We need people trained for the jobs that we have today. Pascal, I know you're always very positive, so this will be a very brief answer.
Bad luck. There's three things to say. My generations, we missed the point on bringing the 1825 is a job. A fourth of them don't really have a jobs. Of the 3 million unemployed people, one of the priorities is to bring back 1 million back into the work. When you go to see, let me try to illustrate the point, and at the risk of being slightly long, when you go to see a UPS new project right here in Ivry, you believe that essentially these guys are taking tons of packs coming from the Amazons, Fnac.com, Cdiscount of this world. And you believe this is going to be a very manual type of activities. In fact, once you put the packs on an 8 kilometers conveyors, there is no more human interventions. It goes at the end, it redirects to other trucks going different places. The kind of skills that we need are essentially the people which are entering the monitoring rooms, trying to watch and monitor how the things goes. We need to create tons and tons of these jobs. And this is not the big jobs paid 100K euros, right? That's good, solid job, paid 30, 40, 50K. So that's the first thing. We need to create masses of these jobs which are basically going to fuel the digital revolutions. The second point is really the one about diversity, right? You're absolutely right. We need to basically play on that. Today, we don't have enough engagement of the people coming from diverse community outside on the outskirts of the cities, and we haven't done a good job. So you see, I'm not so positive. I think this is one of the areas where we've been pathetic, right? So we need to do a better job there, and we need also to completely put back the ladies. In the entrepreneurship, in the French Tech, we have a special programs to bring basically the ladies and iconizing them so that we bring a lot more of that diversity out there. The third one is actually on the school, right? The undergraduate. Here, we clearly have 1 million stock of engineers. We are putting on the market every year 35,000 of them. And essentially they put the right skill sets. But what we don't have is the critical mass in terms of institutions. We need to basically stop to be fragmented. We need to stop to reinvent the wheel country, city or regions. We need to basically create a critical mass with institutions which can essentially deploy it on a worldwide scale. And doing so, we need actually a better role given to the regions, which is now in charge of the economic development. So we need to find this right balance between trying to do that nationally while involving the core role of the regions. So I hope I haven't been too positive, and I answer your questions.
Very helpful. Mayor Michaud.
So, as I said, I'm a politician, so I am okay with everyone here. And I won't repeat, I just want to add two things. First of all, we have to improve our culture of accepting loss.
I'm talking about the educational system now. I'm going to get to that question.
The education system.
Okay.
We have a very elitist system. If you have some success, it's perfect. You can open some golden doors in very prestigious schools and to have a lot of job proposal before you graduate. But if you don't success, our education system is creating a loss of confidence for a lot of young people. And we don't have the culture of the second chance. It's a huge difference between France and the US. In business, we have the culture of the second, third, fourth chance in politics, but we don't have it in business. If you have a company, if you don't succeed, you will have your name in the bank registry as forbidden to create a new company. And so it's an educational issue, because very young we have to bring confidence to people, not only to class them, to create some competition at each level, but sometimes to valorize what people are able to do and not to notice what they can't realize or
Okay, could others respond to that in one sentence? Is there enough of a culture of risk in France? Yes or no? Oui or no?
No, definitely not. And as you know, we have put the principe de précaution, so precaution principle, into our institution. So it tells you a lot about that.
Let's go right down the line.
not enough.
Not for now.
Not enough?
No, but it's changing.
Yes.
We,
Not enough, but it is changing.
Have any of you-
Especially in the new generations, you know, we are all now. In the new generations, it's changing a lot.
Have any of you ever hired someone from a startup that failed?
French are not very comfortable with failure, but we try to
No?
change that.
I did.
You have.
Actually, it's a criteria of choice. It's one of the positives you want to highlight.
Okay, good. Regulation. Does French regulation encourage innovation or discourage innovation? Who wants to start? And you have to keep it under 3 sentences. 3 sentences maximum. I need a scorekeeper here.
Yeah, things are improving also, and it didn't start just 18 months ago. I mean, the world is changing, and France is changing too. And of course, we had some difficulties with the socialist government recently. It's sure, but changes are on the way. We talked briefly about the university and the transformation of the university system because of a very important law passed by Valérie Pécresse a few years ago, more than about 10 years ago,
Okay.
I would say. So it's changing.
Thank you. And
I think we have to regulate, of course, but we have to free also the cooperation between private and public sector, and to give the chance to these two sectors to work together without regulation, because with regulation, much regulation, we bring borders, and innovation don't need borders. So I think we have to regulate for free, but at the moment we have to stop, and less innovation between public and private sector do it the job. So 3 sentences.
3 sentences. Number 1, we came from a nightmare situations where the dumbest country for decades. It was essentially impossible to basically do whatever it takes. For the last 5 to 10 years, things have changed dramatically. My second sentences. Today, you can basically create a company in 3.5 days. We have in the Loi PAC right now the fact that the centre des formalités, which is the way you basically register and so on, is moving from 7 to all online. So we are totally embracing the concept of e-government. And the third one is actually we need more regulations in order to basically build into the digital world some large company. We need absolutely to define a frame stable. We cannot do it by ourselves. We need to do it at European level. We need to do it in the US. I believe the GPDR is actually a very good example of that. And I'm sure that the US will follow up in this space in the next years ahead.
thank you.
Adopt a spirit of conquest for the French company, and not only have a French regard on the market issues, less taxes, less regulations.
One, in my opinion, the biggest issue today is not the content of the regulation, it's the speed at which you get the agreement every time you want to do something new. It's too long, way too long in France. Second, we have improved a lot on co-building of the regulation. You will really discuss now, before putting in place a new regulation, and a very good example of that is the great work between the CNIL, the French Public Authority on Data Protection, and the private companies, where there is a very good dialogue. We don't always agree, but at least we discuss and we co-build, and it's a huge improvement.
So I appreciate all those different views. I think what I'm hearing is that the emphasis is on the French word entrepreneur, not on the emphasis in the French word bureaucrat. Yes? So, Pascal, you mentioned GDPR, my favorite subject, and I will be talking about it in the next panel. I was going to ask whether the new GDPR and the right to be forgotten and the whole the right to privacy that's in France and Europe is good for innovation or bad for innovation, but you think it's good for innovation. Yes, that's what I heard you say.
I believe it's a very good regulations.
Anyone else have a view? A good regulation, but is it good for innovation?
which is actually doing the right balance between protecting what is in our constitutions, the US constitutions, some of the individual rights, and allowing essentially to create a level playing field for anyone who wants to compete in a better situations. But I believe it's an excellent regulation. It's the first act of unilateralism of Europe, amazing enough.
First act, I'm sorry?
Of unilateralism means that we're imposing upon US, Chinese, American, any other companies, when they come in Europe and they want to do business, to basically act as per this rule, right? Which is very unilateral. And I think it's very interesting, is where actually Europe can play very well time to time.
Any disagreement with that on the panel?
No, I totally agree. GDPR is not an obstacle for innovation, absolutely not.
I agree too. And we don't say it, much about it, but data is not only the personal data, okay? Data is public data. Data is also data coming from companies, and I think 90% of data is not personal data. So we can say that it's an obstacle to the innovation, because innovation is everywhere, not only with this personal data. And we can innovate. Yes. Sorry?
The question was whether or not GDPR was a good or bad regulations, right?
For innovation.
For the innovation.
So we're all saying that we believe it's a good.
You're all saying it's a good
It's not
thing. Does
obstacle.
anyone disagree with that? Are you going to go ahead, disagree if you want.
I am agree because I think we have a problem of perception between Europe and USA on this question. For me, this regulation is like the helmet for moto. It's not because you have to wear an helmet on your head to run on a moto. It's bad for Harley Davidson as innovation. It's good for society. We have to
Tell that to the Dutch.
we have
They don't
to
wear
create
helmets.
some public protections, and company have to do with. They can innovate, but you have some limits. I don't know. I don't want to take another metaphor like a wall, because it's a very sensitive subject in your country today.
Okay, I'm going to hold you, despite our wonderful friendship, I'm going to hold you to the 3 sentences, because I have a whole bunch of questions and we have less than 10 minutes left. You're actually the business person that's on the panel. Did you have a different view on GDPR?
No, not at all. I very
great.
much agree with what was said. It's a matter of culture and society, and I think GDPR has not changed anything in the way we innovate before the 25th of May and after the 25th of May. It didn't change anything.
Okay, I'm going to switch subjects to investment and research and development. Does France have the right amount? It needs more? It has too much? Quick answers, because I have a few other subjects that are very important, please.
We always need more, but I think that one of the big issues that we'll have in the political debate, in the European political debate that will come in a few weeks, in a few months, all over the countries, is to be together and to be stronger together and to have real European research.
So we need more
programs. Yes,
we need
on the
more.
European level.
Any other views? Pascal, we need more, but we have a lot.
We have not enough, but we need to be frugal and better to basically disseminate around places this R&D. We should focus on a handful number of sectors where we create minimum thresholds to win. So we need to essentially say no to many areas where we abandon sovereignties, and we need to basically focus on a handful numbers so that in the value chain, because we Europeans or French, some of these areas, we can have a word to say, right? So it's about reallocating resources and get to competitive advantage.
Okay, any different views? You don't have to answer every question. Taxation, it was mentioned earlier. Are we at the right level, going to the right? I mean, I know the law is changing over the next few years. Is it where it should be? Is it good? Any changes? If everyone agrees it's good, that's good too. I can move on.
Maybe we could simplify, because we have many different tools and sometimes it's difficult to understand which is the appropriate tool, and maybe we could simplify.
And then again, all this is in the context of what the government is doing and the impact on innovation. Is it good for innovation?
We'll see.
If I'm the next unicorn, $1 billion valuation company, do I want to be in France or do I want to be somewhere else?
You absolutely,
France.
and that's hard facts. You can absolutely be in France because our competitions, which is around us in Europe or even the US, is not any better, right? Despite some of the Trump administration's tax reductions, which are making very competitive, but that's not doesn't really play at that stage.
How about, I'll ask this even though it's a very American-centric question. The language, is that a barrier or a help? French language, in terms of attracting innovators, innovation, is it good,
It's a barrier.
bad, neutral?
What you mean is that we should change language, or?
No, I think that the
I knew you said me it was a very American question.
I'm sorry, it's just, je suis désolé.
Gary, you've got the Erasmus programs, which is now really playing out. It doesn't pay for him once. We need to do a better job at teaching English, definitely. We've got also at Business France the VIE program where every year 10,000 kids are doing what I would describe the Erasmus of enterprise. So we're really changing. We're not changing fast enough, but we need absolutely to keep our language. The community of French speakers are around 300 million people inhabiting the world. I think is a strength. But we need to live with the rules of modern time, which is this English language.
Well, one of the things I've noticed...
Just a minute about that.
I want to set it up the question, let me get to the question a little bit more specifically. France has more recently been very aggressive in trying to attract some of the smartest people from around the world to France. There's various programs. Is the language an impediment or it doesn't matter to that?
It doesn't really matter. I don't think it's an issue.
I'm sorry, I cut you off, Mary, you're very polite to me.
It was very short. First of all, it's very unusual for French to speak English together in France, in Paris, for an event. So you did it, and it's a proof we change and we improve our international culture. And my second point is the language is directly connected to the soul. Because all the songs you hear when you are a kid build your personality, the way you see the world. There is a beautiful French book from Rousseau, de l'origine des langues. Je ne sais pas s'il est traduit en anglais. And I will send you, not a dedicated because the author is dead, but an example because it's brilliant and it explains the climate, the words you hear are building your personality. And we need, for innovation, to build world with diversity of personality, of cultures and of people, and the French language is one of our best weapon in this world.
Okay, so we're going to start the question and answer period shortly. I have one final question. To improve public-private partnerships and innovation in France, if you could change one law or situation, what would it be? And by the way, I want to apologize to all of you. First, that I'm speaking English. And second, that I did not give these panelists these questions ahead of time. So, and they're speaking in English, so I appreciate that. So you're humoring me greatly. I noticed the difference between 3 sentences and 3 paragraphs is something that is lost in the translation. But we'll get there. So while I gave you time to think of your answer, does anyone want to start? One thing that you could change to make it better.
I have 2 things, but
Okay.
I would like to change the world. So one thing is to increase, there are some tools to make better cooperation between private and public sector. That is our topic today. This is partnership innovation. It's a type of contract between innovative companies and public institutions for have an easy access to the markets, to the public procurement markets. So we should promote some tools. That is the thing we have to change or to improve. Promote the tools that exist and create some more. But there are many tools that can make things better in innovation. And the second thing is I would like to announce something that will be launched, a platform created by Syntec Numérique and the DGE. DGE is the General Directorate of Enterprises, is the branch of French Ministry of Economy and Finance. And we created a platform that we able to help digital company to help companies of other areas to transform themselves and to bring innovation into the company. So these two tools we have be more proactive on the promotion.
Thank you.
We should seek transparency on both sides. Today, there is far too many taxes, parafiscal, tax on enterprise, which doesn't give you a clear sense of what is the tax pressure you have as a company. And what is true here is also true to the salary sheet that I get as an employee. A few years back, we compared what was doing in England, and for once we could basically borrow from that. Ours is far too complex. So we need to bring transparency. In order to do that, we need to simplify and just recognize what is the real tax that we pay all in all, right? So that's the
transparency and taxation. Anyone else?
Simplification, that's what I said before, simplification of our different tools and especially of our tax system. And of course, more European programs. I really think that in the future we need to build new European R&D programs.
Okay. Anyone else there?
Just about simplification, because I just want to add something. We have to keep in time our rules and our regulation. One of the problems is the high speed of change. And so you can have some rules, but you have to create the condition to stabilize it.
Okay, Guillaume, do you want to?
I will be very close to Katia. We need to improve the French rules for public procurement in order to make partnerships between private players, no matter the size, and public authorities much easier, especially for experiments, where honestly it's still extremely complicated.
Okay. We have the ability to